Hey, I'm ZSH Plays. Welcome back to San Bernardino Zoo. And welcome back to the frozen north. Today we're going to be building a massive mountain for the Dall Sheep on the left of the map here, and a habitat for moose on the right. Let's go. The first thing we're going to do is build the mountain. This is going to be a real weenie for this area of the zoo. And before I go into the concept of it, I'm just going to explain what I'm doing here. So one of the little quirks in Planet Zoo is when guests are looking at habitat, they can often step off the path in the direction of the habitat. And this habitat is going to have a ditch running alongside the path to keep the animals in, which means the guests are going to look like they're just stood in midair, which is not what we want. So what we need to do is extend the path out. So I've got a floor piece here that pretty closely matches the path, and once we've recolored it, matches it a lot better, and a piece of concrete, and this will enable us to make the walls of the ditch and extend the path at the same time, so that when the guests step forward off the path, they're still going to apparently be stood on the path instead of up in midair. And now we've got the piece looking good, we can just run it up this hill along the path until we got it finished. So what is the habitat going to look like then? A couple of months ago I was at Prague Zoo and I saw one of the most amazing habitats I have ever seen. It was absolutely mind-blowing. So Prague Zoo is built in the middle of a beautiful forest with a cliff face running through it. So half of the zoo is at the top of this kind of cliff, and then the other half is at the bottom. And they've done something really clever with the cliff face itself. They've built habitats into it. So they've already got this incredible natural rock formation. It literally goes up at an angle of about 45 degrees, might even be steeper than that, maybe 50 degrees. And they've put fences up and they keep mountain goats, tars and turs on there. If you're not familiar with what they are, neither was I, but they're essentially mountain goats, caprids of some description. And standing at the bottom of it and looking up at it, it is just absolutely amazing to see these animals on the sort of sheer cliff faces that they normally live on, which you don't normally get to see in zoos. And I really wanted to replicate this here. We do have one problem. San Bernardino Zoo is not built with a giant cliff face running through it, so we're going to need to build it ourselves. And it doesn't make sense to just suddenly have this natural cliff face right at the back of the zoo. We'd have to terraform the whole map, and we're quite close to the edge of the map here, so you'd actually be able to see where the ground suddenly disappears back down again. So we're going to need to turn it into a man-made habitat, and that is where the second influence on this habitat comes in, which is the Mapping Terraces at London Zoo. That is an amazing man-made mountain which was built in the early part of the 20th century. It's an amazing habitat, purely built out of poured concrete, and because we need this to be man-made, we're going to combine the look of the Prague habitat with the look of the London Zoo habitat, so we can get this sheer cliff face but make it look man-made rather than natural. It's going to take the most rock work we've ever done in an episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. Right, let's get the mountain in. So we're going to use the terrain stamp tool initially to get the slope in, and where the camera was when I was lining it up is exactly matching the reference photo I took when I was there, so we can get this slope as close to the real slope as possible. It really is this steep, and then we'll just curve it around the habitat and get us a nice realistic slope. Doesn't look very realistic at the moment. There's going to be a lot of work to do to this, but we need to get a base in here using terrain. Now we'll get the rough rock texture out and cover everything in that, and we'll draw some smooth highlights in and things like that as well, so it's not all looking the same. But almost all this terrain is going to be covered in rocks in a second, so it doesn't matter too much what it looks like. And once this is done, we're going to start using the goat mountain enrichment item. I want multiples of these at the top so that we can get classic shots of the sheep actually at the top of the mountain. It draws in a whole wodge of terrain itself when you place it down, so we need to get rid of that. That's not too difficult. We can just match it up using the flatten to slope tool. It will have a bit of an overhang. That's absolutely fine because we're going to join it on using some of the faux rocks. We're going to use a load of faux rocks for this to get that sort of poured concrete look, and then we're going to mix some natural rocks in as well on the slopes because they're flatter, and it'll just give it a bit of a nicer texture. We are building for the Dall Sheep today rather than the Ibex. If you're new to the series, this frozen north area is full of animals that live in the northern part of the United States along with Canada and Alaska, so the European Ibex isn't appropriate for here. And later on we will be introducing another North American animal, the moose, which will be going on the opposite side of the frozen north. I'll explain when we get to that why we're doing two habitats in one episode. So we've got these faux rocks here, and we're going to start building these all the way around this mountain here. What we need to do is essentially create a path that the sheep are going to be able to walk up to get right from the bottom all the way up to the top and then onto these goat mountain enrichment pieces as well. And with the traversable area and the way it works in Planet Zoo, that is going to be quite the challenge, but we'll go into that in much more detail when we get to that. We're going to need a little sheep in the habitat already to sort that out for us and let us know where they can walk. And while we finish these rocks off, just in case you missed the announcement a few days ago, we have a new channel to watch this week, ZSH Zoo Tours, where I I tour some actual real zoos, starting with the amazing Tiergarten Schönbrunn in Vienna. That tour is out now. I'll put a link to it at the end of the video, and we have tours of Prague and Leipzig to come. So there won't be any more real-life zoo tours on this channel. They will exclusively be on that channel. So if that is your bag, head on over to there. And if not, you won't have to see those on your subscription feed anymore. I'm putting a little slope in here so that the sheep can get up to their shelter, which will be at the top of the slope here. And then I'll put some fences in. We're just going to put basic normal fences in here. This is what they had in Prague. And they'll almost entirely be hidden by rocks and tiny bits of foliage, so we don't need anything fancy there. What we're going to do now is get our first Dall sheep in and start working out the traversable area and how we're going to get them to the top of this mountain. Alright, so we're going to select our little sheep here, and then we'll go to the heat map and the traversable area, and we'll see what we've got. So right now they can get everywhere, and the goat climbing mountain is accessible as well. So that's what we want, but obviously what we don't want is it to look like this. So we're going to cover the whole thing in rocks now and start working on this path that's going to take them up to the top. So it needs to look like a realistic mountain, and there might be all sorts of places where they can jump between the rocks, which will look great. But we need to make sure there's a solid walkable pathway for them to get all the way up to the top so that they don't end up getting stuck anywhere or anything like that. What we're going to do is build one piece of rock that's slightly angled upwards like this, and keep experimenting with the different faux rocks until we get something we're happy with. I want it to look realistic, but also like it is made out of faux rocks rather than like there just happen to be a giant mountain sat here. And once we've got that done, we'll start recontouring this mountain to make sure that the path is wide enough for the sheep to get up it. So we've got this piece here, and now we're going to copy it and start placing it all around this hill and sinking it in and just generating this path for the sheep to walk down. And we'll just keep using this one piece, change it every now and again so it doesn't look samey, and get the whole mountain covered in these rocks. Any gaps will either be left as they are here, or will be covered up with some of the natural rocks, so the whole thing looks really realistic. So we got the beginnings of the path in here, and now we're going to snake it round the other way. So they go from left to right as you look at it here, and then they go from right to left, and then they end up at the top of the mountain and able to get onto the goat climbing mountain. We're going to have another one of those goat climbing mountains, and then I'm going to basically build a fake one as well. You can't build these too close to barriers, the game won't let you put them there, and I want 3 of them. So what I'm going to do is have the real one that you see there, another real one to the left, and then I'm going to basically recreate it using the faux rocks so that we appear to have another one on the other side, and the sheep will be able to climb 2 out of the 3 of them. This is the side of the mountain using basically the same pile of rocks. None of this will be poking through the fence like this when it's finished. That'll all get adjusted. And then on the other side, we'll put in the other real goat mountain enrichment that's going to go in here. And if you've been to London Zoo, you can really see the mapping terraces influence now. Then we're going to start putting natural rocks in. So for some reason on the temperate maps, the rock texture is basically brown, which is not a colour of rock I often see living in a temperate country myself. So we're going to cover these up with these natural rocks that will basically do the same job, but with a colour that much more closely matches the faux rocks that we've got here. You can see I've changed the colour of the faux rocks as well, just experimenting to get something that I really like the look of. And now it's time to actually try and get a sheep to the top of this mountain. Little Embry here is telling us where she can walk, which is only as far as this end here. So let's make some adjustments to this rock, try and smooth it out and see what happens. And we'll keep going back to Embry, seeing what she thinks. Nope, still nothing. So we'll do some more adjusting, get a nice little curve going up round here, get rid of that rock and see what happens now. Nope, still nothing. So maybe this one is the problem, or maybe this one's a bit high. Let's move this one over here and then go back to Embry again. And there we go. Now she can get all the way up to the second level, and we're just going to keep fiddling around with that. I'll spare you the half an hour or so of my life that I spent doing this. And now you can see that they can get back across the whole mountain again, even though it's now completely covered in fake rocks. Now, Dall sheep live in the very far north of America, and it's probably not escaped your attention that we are in Southern California here, so it is going to be a lot hotter than they used to. Now, sheep are enormously hardy animals. I don't think it'll cause them too much problems, but we need to make sure they've got lots of shelter in this habitat for when it is super hot and they want to get out of it. So I'm going to build them a cute little rock shelter here, just by digging into that wall a bit and putting some more faux rocks down. We'll get the ground all covered up, put some straw in here for them to lay on. And then at the top of the mountain, we're going to put some very simple shelters in for them as well. So they've got lots of different places where they can get out of the direct sunlight. This does have an effect in game. The temperature is lower when it's hot under shelter, but it doesn't make enough of a difference for me, to be honest. When it's 30 degrees, the difference between being in direct sunshine and being completely sheltered can quite literally be the difference between life and death, and I don't think Planet Zoo recognises that enough. So we're going to help it along by hiding some coolers in the shelters so that the animals are genuinely cool when they go in there. We've put one of our normal hoofstock shelters at the end as well. And now what we need to do is finish off the sides of the mountain and the back so it all looks like a big man-made mountain rather than this weird triangular wodge of terrain coming out of the ground. And we're basically just going to use that same rock piece again, spun on its side, a few minor adjustments, and this looks really nice. This big mountain has been planned since day one of the Frozen North. It's really exciting seeing it come together. You're going to be able to see this as soon as you enter the area, and it makes such a difference to the overall look. At the back of it, we'll just put something even simpler down, just some concrete walls, so it looks like the rock work is built on top of these walls, and there's some sort of internal area in there that people can get into. And that is Sheep Mountain pretty much done. Now, before we move on to our moose habitat, it's time for Franchise Masters. This is different. Well, today's question comes from Frankie Rogers Games, who asks, where do you find your animal husbandry info, i.e. how to look after them, how do they breed, etc.? Well, apart from the basic info found in the Zoopedia, the place real zoos get their information from is called the Animal Care Manual. Each species has its own care manual, and all I do is go to Google and type in Giant Panda Care Manual, and there we go. The top result is the official husbandry manual for the giant panda, and this will tell you all you need to know and more about how to care for how cute is that baby panda, about how to care for the giant panda, and you can find this for most species which are kept in zoos. They are an absolute treasure trove of useful information. I don't always use them, but when I need them, they are absolutely vital. All right, let's move on to the moose habitat. Every time I see moose kept in zoos, they're always in a similar kind of habitat, a wooden fence, a field, a few trees, and that's pretty much it. And I think it's about time that San Bernardino Zoo had a realistic filler habitat like that. But obviously I don't want to dedicate a whole episode to building a really simple habitat. So we're going to polish this off very quickly. And for a bit of a challenge, we aren't going to build a single thing in this habitat. Every single item in this habitat is going to be reused from elsewhere in the zoo, just like real zoos do. So this is the fence from the wolfwood that we built a few weeks back. I've just chopped off the anti-climb barrier at the top, no need for that with moose. This is the generic wooden fence that we built in the Africa section, which we're going to use for the back of the habitat. We are right up against the treetop cafe here. We're going to put our usual hoofstock barn in at the end. And then we're going to take the standoff barrier that we, I think, originally built for the Malayan tapir in the islands. And there we go, this is already starting to look like a nice little habitat with the addition of the lake in the middle, and we haven't built a single thing. Then we're going to take the rock piles that we built also for the wolfwood, place those in, and then we can just start doing some terrain painting and putting some trees and bushes and grasses down. And we're going to have ourselves a habitat in about 2 minutes. This was a lot of fun to build. You see so many habitats like this in zoos, although to be fair, they don't normally have a lake in the middle of them. That was a little touch because moose are big fans of water and often eat underwater plants. But you see so many habitats like this. Filler habitats are normally called because you can't spend millions of pounds on every habitat in the zoo. So it's a lot of fun getting one of those into San Bernardino. We'll take a look at the moose at the end of the episode, but let's check out the finished Sheep Mountain. The sheep are climbing the mountain, the guests are not floating in midair. This is very pleasing. Let's watch our male here make his way up and take his place at the top of the mountain. I think all that work with the traversable area was worth it, and look at the view from up here. Here he goes. And there he is. I love the animations on this goat mountain. This is only the second time I've ever built for the Dall Sheep, and it's a lot of fun watching them run around and jump around on this mountain. And what a pro this guy is, walking right past the camera. Let's head over to the other side of the frozen north and check out the moose. I'd forgotten how big male moose are. They're absolutely enormous, but I think they've got enough space. You can see the treetop cafe here. I'm actually tempted to extend the habitat back a little bit into the palm trees and stuff that you can see there and give them a bit more room. Let's check out where we started today. 2 habitats in 1 episode. Let's see where we are now. Ooh, that mountain looks so good in the background there. Really starts to finish off the area. Once we've got the huge polar bear habitats in the center at the back, it's going to look absolutely amazing. Next week, we're going to be building a habitat for another Arctic animal, one of my favourites, and I've got a really cool idea for their habitat. Here's the Explorers Club monolith. Thank you so much, as always, to all of you who have joined the channel. Hit the join button if you want to see your name up here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon for some more Planet Zoo. Bye.